Summerville Housewife here, and guess where I'm at? You're never gonna guess today either. I am in downtown Summerville, and I am with a very special guest today, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself and tell you where we are.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Rob with Black Circle Records. We are in downtown Summerville, currently on Cedar Street, but next month we will be moving over to Short Central. We are Summerville's spot for vinyl records.
Tell us a little bit more about the store. So when I walk in, what am I seeing in here?
Majority of what you're going to see is used records. That's what we specialize in. Every music from the 1960s to the 80s, 90s, and then we have a growing selection of brand new records as well. When we're over at the new spot, the plan is to grow the newer section to be much larger. So you're going to get a lot more current artists, brand new sealed records, and then obviously our huge selection of used records.
Do you sell anything else in the store?
In addition to records, we do also sell CDs. We sell music-related items, t-shirts, record players, CD players, cassette tapes, basically anything that's music-related, posters, you're gonna find at our shop.
How did you get into this, and why do you love it so much?
I got into all of this kind of by accident. So if we can go back like 15 years ago, back when I was in New York, as like a little side hustle thing, I started buying and selling records, and it was really at the suggestion of my dad, who was a DJ, and he's like, hey, you know, he had a huge record collection and he was starting to sell some online, and he's like, there's a market for this. Like, I don't know if you're ever out there and like finding records that you could pick up at yard sales. And so I started kind of looking more at it, and I would find a box of records in New York. This is going back like 2008, 2009. I'd find a box of records for like 20 bucks, and I would just buy the whole box, and I would take it home and I would look up every one and find ones that were worth something, and then I would sell it online or try to sell it locally on Craigslist before Facebook Marketplace was a thing. And over the course of like 15 years, that kind of slowly turned into a vendor spot when I was in New York with a place called Deep End of the Sandbox, and it was a vintage store that a friend of mine had opened, and she had asked if she knew that I was out there looking for records. We've run into each other from time to time, and she asked me if I had any records that I would be able to bring to the store to sell. And then a little crate turned into a booth, and I kind of grew the business that way. Fast forward to 2019, we moved from New York to South Carolina, and I kind of put all of that on a back burner, and I didn't think I would do that while we were down here. In fact, I left almost all of my records up north, except for my personal collection. And when we came down here, I noticed that there was only 2 record stores in the area at the time, both in Charleston, and that there was nothing by me. And I didn't want to drive 45 minutes to an hour to Charleston every time I wanted to go shop for records. So I noticed that Katie Mays on the corner was looking for vendors, and I asked them if they'd be interested in having me as a vendor with a couple of boxes of records just to test the market and see if there was even record collectors in Summerville. And I was blown away by how many people came in and bought records and how quickly my little booth grew into a bigger booth.
That's where I met you.
Yep.
Katie Mays, because I was also a vendor. Flowers for Rachel. I do not do that anymore. But I saw when I went in, you had a little space. Then it got bigger. Then you were like really getting bigger. And all the people, there was always someone coming in there to see everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it got to the point where I was out of space, and a Saturday would just be packed, and there would be no room for people to walk around. So at that point, then we noticed that this place was available for rent, and I talked to my wife about it, and we just decided to jump in and see what it was like to run our own business. So, and we've been here for 3 years now, and it's growing. I have an employee, and most of you that come in will see Daniel behind the counter. He's a fantastic employee, so knowledgeable about music, so helpful. But just to show you how much the business has grown, and I never really had an intention of doing it, but you guys showed me that it was possible and that this is what Summerville needed.
I have a lot of questions. Okay, one of the questions is, I saw on one of your social media platforms that you also go by Vinyl Dad. Did you name yourself or did your children name you?
A little bit of both, because now Vinyl Dad is just kind of like a persona that I use sometimes in videos to kind of poke fun of myself for being an old dude. I have, you know, Gen Z kids, so it's kind of using their lingo with me being, you know, a 48-year-old, 47, I don't even know how old I am anymore. So it's not, I don't even know where the name came from. I think it was my son that was just like, you're like the Vinyl Dad or something. And I was like, cool, I'll use that as like a little you know, side name.
What types of people come in here? Like what age groups come in here? And I do have an extension of this question. Like, what do you think makes the record still so popular after all these years?
Daniel could also attest to this. The customer base is so varied. We get young kids, high schoolers, their first interaction with a record store. And for me, that's like, it's one of the best things, because I remember going to record stores when I was a kid, and to know that I can be that for now this generation, where they're 20, 30 years from now, they're gonna be like, I remember I got that Taylor Swift record at Black Circle Records, or, you know, you have that as like part of like a core memory. So to be that for the next generation for me is awesome. But we also get a lot of the older generation that come in and sold their records 30 years ago, but now they want, I used to have this record, I want to own this record again. I think the popularity is just due to people owning something physical, as opposed to having to be forced to streaming on Spotify or Apple, where, you know, you could own a Bob Dylan album and you pay for it once, it's yours forever, you can listen to it whenever you want. You don't have to worry about if Bob Dylan takes his music off of Spotify. This is yours forever. You know, obviously the whole thing with records is you have something to hold. There's liner notes, you get to learn about the band, the album, who else was involved in it, all that stuff. So there's that aspect to it as well. But overall, I think I think there's a trend of people going back to owning something physical rather than having to rent or pay for a streaming service that they don't own, that it goes away the second they stop making their monthly payment.
I'm walking down the street, I see you standing there. I call your name, you see my face and you wonder who I am. I quickly remind you, you suddenly remind yourself, you break a smile. We pause a while, then I ask you, would you like to walk with me? 'Cause I'm going to the record store.